Republican Senator from the state of Ohio, J.D. Vance, joining us now. Sir, good to have you on. Your thoughts on what you just saw?
It's a lot, but you'll hear it because it's true. Just an incredible contrast, I think, between the energy, the excitement, the passion of Donald Trump and Joe Biden's meandering answers that showed a complete lack of command of the facts. But one thing that was interesting, Rob, that I really picked up on throughout the debate was Trump showed a certain compassion that was completely lacking from Biden's performance. You hear him talk about, one of these young women who was killed by an illegal alien, calling the young lady's mother. And you could tell that Trump cares about this issue, not just because it's bad or because it's a bad policy outcome, but because it actually affects real Americans. And it's the job of the American president to take care of America's citizens. And then Joe Biden just unable to even acknowledge the fact of the Biden border crisis or of the people affected by it. So, you will hear a lot about Biden's cognitive decline, about the fact that he just seemed to not know anything about the job of being president of the United States. I think what's more interesting in some ways is the complete and utter lack of compassion from Joe Biden and the fact that Donald Trump cares about these issues because they affect real people and he wants to help.
Well, what we're hearing now, especially everywhere in social media and even in the more left-leaning media, Joy Reid from MSNBC says Democrats are approaching panic by Biden's extremely weak debate performance. Senator, what can the Democrats do? Are they going to let Biden go?
Well, it's so interesting that the party that has accused Republicans of being threats to democracy for 4 years is now trying to pull Joe Biden from the ballot for effectively doing what has been obvious to everybody for 4 years, that the guy just clearly isn't up for the job. So my attitude is Democrats are stuck with Joe Biden, and it would be a massive affront to American democracy for them to have effectively given Democratic primary voters one choice for the entire primary process, and then now that he's had a disastrous debate performance, trying to pull him. It's impossible. It doesn't make any sense. And I think that what we saw here tonight was the choice that Americans will have in November. Do you want a high-energy, high-compassion individual to be the next president, or do you want to give Joe Biden another 4 years? I think for Americans, the contrast was clear, and consequently, the choice is very, very clear. We're going to elect Donald Trump in November.
Isn't that interesting, though? I mean, the idea that, the delegates would be making the decision on the candidate. They would have taken it away from the voters, and all they talk about is democracy. I think that would be a great irony. Do you think, as far as Trump's performance, he kept it, I think his demeanor was pretty much spot on. There were a couple moments when he kind of went into the weeds for a second, but I thought Joe Biden looked a lot nastier than Trump. I think if you ended that debate, you would have said that Joe Biden seemed like the nastier guy.
Oh, absolutely. I think Trump was measured and controlled. I think he got fired up in a couple of places, but it was appropriate for him to get fired up. Biden repeating this slander that he called America's troops suckers and losers. I'm a veteran United States Marine. I served in Iraq. All of us who know Trump know that he respects our servicemen and women more than almost anybody else in the country. So the idea that Biden brings up that slander, of course that's going to get Trump fired up, and rightfully so. But I thought largely throughout he was trying to present a factual case to the American people for why Biden's presidency was a disaster and why his own presidency was a success. That is an argument that's very easy to make because the facts back it up. But I think he made it well, and you're right, he did it in a way that I think was approachable and very, very engaging for the average American citizen. Look, I think it was a home run. It was a very, very good night for Donald Trump, a very bad night for Joe Biden. You guys see behind me the spin room where I've had to see, Gavin Newsom and a number of other Democratic politicians defend Joe Biden's debate performance. I've got a much easier job defending Donald Trump's debate performance. But more importantly, it's what this represents. What this represents is a presidency that worked for the American people and a guy who could serve again with effectiveness. That's why we have to reelect Donald Trump.